Ever since Nick Fury appeared in Tony Stark's mansion 8 years ago, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has exploded into a web of events that spans 13 movies and 5 TV series, with several more tales in the works. As Marvel fans count down to the release of Doctor Strange, here's a running chronological timeline of all the major events in the MCU. Beware, all possible spoilers ahead. Marvel. When the universe was created with the Big Bang, 6 powerful Infinity Stones were created: space, mind, reality, power, soul and time. Marvel. Sometime far in the past, the celestial being known as Ego comes into existence. Over millennia, it learns to control matter and creates a planet, then creates a human-like version of itself to explore the universe in search of life. Marvel. At the dawn of mankind, an alien race called the Kree arrived on Earth and gave certain humans genetic enhancements that would grant them special powers. These special humans would become known as Inhumans. Marvel. A powerful Inhuman named Alvius overpowers the Kree and banishes them from the Earth to end their plans. However, Alvius soon becomes mad with power, resulting in his fellow Inhumans banishing him from the planet. Marvel. The few that followed Alvius come to worship him as a deity called Hive, whom they hope will return to Earth and rule the planet. This cult of Hive followers becomes known as Hydra. Marvel. At some point, Ego discovers life and finds it disappointing. He begins spreading seeds of himself across the universe at various planets, and having children with local sentient species, hoping to create a child that can tap into his vast power to help him grow his seeds. Marvel. On Earth, 5 early human tribes discover the crash site of a vibranium meteor in Africa. They come together in the land, naming it Wakanda. Over time, the tribes come together to form a nation, using powerful vibranium technology to isolate themselves from the outside world. The king of Wakanda using the heart-shaped herb that grows in the land to become the Black Panther, Wakanda's protector. Marvel. 965 AD, Odin, king of Asgard, prevents the frost giants of Jotunheim from conquering Earth. After the battle, he adopts the frost giant's prince, Loki. Marvel. 1934, Hydra member Johann Schmidt convinces the Nazi High Command to allow Hydra to conduct research and develop weapons for the Third Reich. Schmidt captures scientist Abraham Erskine and forces him to continue work on a super soldier serum for the Nazis. Marvel. 1940, Schmidt injects himself with a prototype of Erskine's serum, which gives him powers but transforms him into the disfigured villain Red Skull. Fortunately for Erskine, he is rescued by British secret agent Peggy Carter, who invites Erskine to continue his work on the serum in America with Howard Stark, famed inventor and founder of Stark Industries. Marvel. 1943, Erskine recruits Steve Rogers into his project and uses his serum to successfully transform Rogers into Captain America before being killed by a Hydra agent. Captain America quickly becomes a major figure in World War II, rescuing his friend Bucky Barnes and several other American soldiers from a Hydra facility. Marvel. 1945, Captain America and his team successfully capture Hydra scientist Arnim Zola, but Bucky Barnes is presumably killed in the operation. 2 months later, Captain America thwarts Red Skull's plan to bomb the U.S. by crashing Red Skull's bomber plane into Greenland, where he is then frozen for 66 years. Howard Stark recovers the object that was the key to Red Skull's plans, the Tesseract, which is one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Marvel. 1948, after several years of field work, Agent Carter receives an offer from Howard Stark to help create the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, also known as S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel. 1949, Arnim Zola is released from prison, seemingly reformed, and joins S.H.I.E.L.D. However, he devises a plan to rebuild Hydra with sleeper agents that would take over S.H.I.E.L.D. from within. As part of his plan, he recovers Bucky Barnes' body and keeps him in cryostasis, aiming to turn him into a superweapon for Hydra known as the Winter Soldier. Marvel. 1960s, the Winter Soldier is regularly taken out of stasis to perform covert operations for Hydra, including the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Marvel. 1980, Ego reaches Earth, where he falls in love with Meredith Quill. They have a son together. Ego leaves Meredith, although he'll return twice to visit. Marvel. 1984, S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist Hank Pym invents a suit that allows him to shrink to an insect size and an EMP communication device that allows him to command ants. He becomes known as Ant-Man, while his wife, Janet, makes a suit of her own and becomes the Wasp. The two embark on covert S.H.I.E.L.D. operations against Hydra. Marvel. 1987, during a mission to disarm a Soviet ballistic missile, the Wasp shrinks small enough to enter the missile and disarm it. However, this presumably kills her, as it is impossible to return to normal size when one shrinks to the subatomic level. Hank hangs up his Ant-Man suit and later resigns from S.H.I.E.L.D. after he discovers the organization is trying to replicate his technology. Marvel 1988, following the death of his mother, Peter Quill, who would soon be known as Star-Lord, is abducted from Earth. He's taken by the Ravagers, who were hired by Ego to retrieve his children from across the galaxy. Marvel 1991, under HYDRA's control, the Winter Soldier kills Howard Stark and his wife, making the death look like a car accident. Howard's son, Tony Stark, inherits Stark Industries. Marvel 1992, Prince N'Jobu, acting as a spy for Wakanda, heads to Oakland, California. The racial disparity he encounters causes him to believe Wakanda should abandon its isolationist stance and arm oppressed people across the globe. N'Jobu works with arms dealer Ulysses Cloud to steal vibranium from Wakanda, and in the process, several people are killed, including the parents of W'Kabi, a friend of Prince T'Challa. King T'Chaka comes to Oakland and confronts N'Jobu, killing him in the dispute. T'Chaka leaves behind N'Jobu's young son, Nyadaka, known in the U.S. as Eric Stevens, rather than return the boy to Wakanda. 1993, a young boy named Matt Murdock saves an elderly man from being hit by a truck, but the truck crashes and splashes hazardous chemicals on Murdock's eyes. The chemicals blind him but heighten the rest of his senses to superhuman levels. A few months later, Murdock's father is killed after refusing to throw a fight for the Mafia. Marvel 1998, Natasha Romanoff completes her training at the ruthless KGB training facility, the Red Room. Given the code name Black Widow, she becomes a top name on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hit list. S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Clint Hawkeye Barton is sent to kill Black Widow, but he instead makes her an offer to defect to S.H.I.E.L.D., which she accepts. Marvel 1999, Jessica Jones survives a car crash that kills her brother and father. She and her mother Elisa survive, thanks to medical experiments done on them by the organization known as IGH. The experiments save both Jessica and Elisa, but give both superpowers. Elisa is badly disfigured in the accident. Marvel 2001, the Rand family boards a plane bound for China. Wendell Rand's business partner, Harold Meacham, poisons the pilots, causing the plane to crash. Wendell and his wife Heather are killed, but their son, 9-year-old Danny Rand, survives and is brought to K'un-Lun, a mystical interdimensional city that appears on Earth in the Himalayas only every 15 years. Marvel 2004, Elisa Jones awakens after years of treatment by IGH and Dr. Carl Mellas, using gene therapy to repair her disfigurement. Her appearance has changed, and she suffers violent mood swings that, coupled with her enhanced strength, make her dangerous and homicidal. 2005, Dr. Bruce Banner joins a government project to recreate Abraham Erskine's super soldier formula. When he begins experimenting on himself, a gamma radiation accident turns him into the Hulk. Banner goes on the run looking for a cure. Marvel 2009, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson is appointed the head of Project Tahiti, which aims to save people who are mortally wounded. Test subjects on agents with terminal illnesses caused them to behave erratically. Coulson resigns from the project and moves on to monitor future members of the Avengers. Marvel 2010, Tony Stark is attacked and captured in Afghanistan. A fellow captive scientist named Jensen creates a device that keeps his heart functioning. Stark eventually escapes and becomes Iron Man. Upon his return, Stark defeats his father's business partner, Obadiah Stane, who was responsible for Stark's capture. Afterwards, Stark reveals to the public that he is Iron Man and gets an offer from S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury to join the Avengers initiative. Marvel 2011, Tony Stark becomes a worldwide celebrity for his exploits as Iron Man, but discovers that the element powering the arc reactor that keeps his heart beating is slowly killing him. After getting drunk out of despair for failing to find a way to fix the reactor, Stark is subdued by his friend, James Rhodes, who took one of his prototype suits. Rhodes then brings the prototype suit to the military to be upgraded into a new suit called War Machine. Marvel May 29 to June 4, 2011, a series of events known as Nick Fury's Busy Week advances the MCU towards the creation of the Avengers. All the climactic events from Iron Man 2, Thor, and The Incredible Hulk play out in this week, including the following. Marvel Mjolnir lands on Earth, along with Thor, who has been banished from Asgard by Odin. After bonding with Jane Foster and Eric Selvig, Thor regains his powers and stops Loki's plans to destroy Jotunheim. S.H.I.E.L.D. learns of Thor's existence and brings Selvig on to research the Tesseract, which came into S.H.I.E.L.D.'s possession after the death of Howard Stark. Marvel Iron Man defeats Ivan Vanko, the son of Howard Stark's former business partner, with the help of Black Widow and War Machine. Marvel. After being discovered in South America, Bruce Banner returns to New York. Unfortunately, his hopes of finding a cure and remaining secret are both dashed when he is forced to turn into the Hulk after the military attempts to apprehend him. Marvel. April 2012, Captain America is discovered frozen in the ice, with Erskine's serum keeping him alive and preserved. He is awakened by S.H.I.E.L.D. and discovers that he has been asleep for 66 years. Marvel. May 2012, a few weeks later, Loki attacks New York in an attempt to retrieve the Tesseract and conquer Earth. In response, Nick Fury calls forth the Avengers, bringing superheroes into the public eye for the first time. Loki is defeated and sentenced to eternity in Asgard's dungeons. After the Battle of New York, Adrian Toomes and his crew are contracted to salvage alien wreckage and clean up the battle site. They're removed from the project by Damage Control, a joint venture between the government and Stark Industries. As a result, Toomes uses some salvaged alien technology to build illegal weapons and sell them on the black market. Sony. After he is killed by Loki, Agent Coulson is revived by Nick Fury using Project Tahiti. He is given false memories about his role in the Battle of New York to prevent the psychological damage that the Tahiti test subject suffered. Coulson is then put in charge of his own special team in S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel. December 2012, a traumatized Tony Stark defeats Aldrich Killian, a scientist who planned to use the extremis virus to enact a plan that would end with the U.S. president being killed and replaced with a puppet ruler through which he could monopolize the war on terror. Marvel. August 2013, while Hell's Kitchen continues to rebuild after Loki's attack, Matt Murdock decides to open up a private law office with his Columbia Law School roommate, Foggy Nelson. Meanwhile, Jessica Jones is convinced by her friend Trish to use the powers she gained in the crash that killed her family to fight crime. Marvel. Unfortunately, Jessica Jones encounters Kilgrave, who becomes enamored with her powers and takes over her mind to make her his personal slave. Kilgrave uses his powers over the next several months to force Jones to commit violent acts and have sex with him. Marvel. November 2013, after freeing Loki from his dungeon cell, Thor and his friends defend Earth from the Dark Elves, who look to take control of the Ether, one of the Infinity Stones. During the attack, Loki fakes his death and disguises himself as Odin, allowing him to take the throne of Asgard. Marvel. January 2014, under Kilgrave's influence, Jessica Jones kills Seagate prison psychologist Rava Connors. Jones then is able to rebel against Kilgrave's control, and in the confusion, Kilgrave is hit by a bus. Kilgrave recovers, but lets Jones think he died in the bus accident. Marvel. April 2014, with the help of Nick Fury, Black Widow, and his new friend Sam Falcon Wilson, Captain America uncovers Armin Zola's plan to destroy S.H.I.E.L.D. from the inside and expose the secret takeover of the organization by Hydra. Along the way, Cap has to fight the Winter Soldier, whom he discovers is his old friend, Bucky Barnes. With Cap's help, Bucky regains his memories. Marvel. Meanwhile, Agent Coulson and his team at S.H.I.E.L.D. deal with the Hydra uprising, including the discovery that one of the team members, Grant Ward, was recruited to Hydra several years before joining Coulson's team. After quelling the uprising, Coulson was named the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Nick Fury. Marvel. At some point that same year, Peter Quill, now known as Star-Lord, forms the Guardians of the Galaxy with Drax, Gamora, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon. Together, they stop the vicious zealot Ronan and retrieve one of the Infinity Stones, which they leave in the care of the Nova Corps. Marvel. A few months later, Ego finds Peter Quill and the Guardians, who he heard about because of Peter's ability to briefly hold the Infinity Stone without dying. Ego explains that Quill is his son and that he's also part Celestial. Ego attempts to use Quill to power up his seeds and take over the galaxy, but the Guardians defeat him. Marvel. January 2015, Matt Murdock decides to use his powers to become a vigilante in Hell's Kitchen, taking on the identity of Daredevil. Around the same time, Jessica Jones starts a new career as a private investigator. In the year since breaking free of Kilgrave's control, she has turned to alcohol to cope with the trauma. Marvel. February 2015, Daredevil confronts the kingpin of Hell's Kitchen's criminal underworld, Wilson Fisk. The conflict launches Daredevil into national headlines. Marvel. March 2015, Jessica Jones meets Luke Cage and has a one-night stand with him, but discovers that he was Rava Connor's husband and that he has bulletproof skin. She also discovers that Kilgrave is still alive and has recently manipulated a woman into killing her parents. She vows to find Kilgrave and kill him. Marvel. April 2015, decorated U.S. Marine Frank Castle goes for a walk with his family in Central Park, but they are caught in a gunfight between competing mob members. Castle's wife and daughter are killed, and Castle is hospitalized in critical condition. Marvel. That same month, Jessica Jones manages to snap Kilgrave's neck and end his killing spree. But before that, she is forced to reveal to Luke Cage that she killed his wife. Cage leaves her and ends up under Kilgrave's control, forcing Jones to fight him. The battle results in Cage suffering heavy brain swelling, which local nurse Claire Temple saves him from by sticking an IV through his eye to drain the fluid. Cage flees from Hell's Kitchen and travels to Harlem. Marvel. May 2015, the Avengers inflict a major blow against Hydra by raiding their main research lab and retrieving Loki's scepter, which contains an Infinity Stone. They then are forced to fight Ultron, a peacekeeping system designed by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner that turns on humanity. They defeat Ultron in the city of Sokovia, but the battle kills many humans. Marvel. After the battle, the Avengers get 2 new members, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, Maximoff, a telepath with psionic abilities, and Vision, an android brought to life by a mix of Iron Man's old computer interface Jarvis, Thor's Asgardian magic, and the Mind Stone found inside Loki's scepter. Hulk, meanwhile, flies off to an unknown destination. Marvel. July 2015, computer whiz and reluctant thief Scott Lang breaks into Hank Pym's residence to get money to pay for child support. Instead, he finds Pym's Ant-Man suit and tries it on, only to discover its capabilities. Pym convinces Lang to become the new Ant-Man. Lang agrees and takes on Pym's former protege Darren Cross, who planned to create a copy of the Ant-Man suit called Yellow Jacket and sell it to Hydra. Marvel. November 2015, Frank Castle, furious over the death of his family in Central Park, begins ruthlessly killing criminals in New York and becomes known as the Punisher. This leads to a complicated relationship with Daredevil, as the two battle over their conflicting philosophies on crime fighting while occasionally teaming up to take on greater threats. Marvel. December 2015, Castle is arrested and convicted of murder. He escapes prison, and the blacksmith, a heroin kingpin in New York, uses the opportunity to frame Castle to protect his own identity. Castle discovers that the blacksmith is actually Colonel Schoonover, his former commanding officer. When Schoonover takes Karen Page hostage, Castle kills him to save her. Netflix. In Harlem, Luke Cage moves on from his experiences with Jessica Jones and Kilgrave and becomes an icon to the black community with his bulletproof skin and hoodie. He defeats Harlem crime lord Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes and Luke's evil half-brother, Willis Diamondback Stryker. Unfortunately, Cottonmouth's cousin, Mariah Dillard, exposes that Cage is a falsely convicted criminal, which leads to authorities taking him back into custody. Marvel. January 2016, the remnants of Hydra are successful in returning their god, Hive, to Earth. Hive takes over Hydra and plans to build an army of Inhumans to take over the Earth. Agent Coulson and S.H.I.E.L.D. defeat Hive and, with intel provided by HYDRA's former leader, are able to eradicate HYDRA's core leadership and bases. Marvel. The path to K-and-Moon is opened for the first time since Danny arrived. He returns to New York to find out what happened to his parents. Danny argues with Joy and Ward Meacham, the children of his father's business partner Harold and whom he grew up with, as he attempts to return to the company. He also battles the Hand, led by Madame Gao, which made a deal with Harold to prolong his life in exchange for using the Rand Corporation to make and traffic heroin. Marvel. Danny Rand defeats an offshoot group of the Hand and Harold Meacham, stopping the heroin operation. Madame Gao escapes, and Harold's daughter Joy Meacham and Danny's friend Davos plot revenge against Danny. Meanwhile, K-and-Loon has been attacked and the city has disappeared before Danny can return. Marvel. Months after Danny Rand's encounter with the organization, the Hand resurrects Elektra to become their prophesied Black Sky weapon. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Iron Fist work together to defeat the Hand once and for all, stopping its members from achieving immortality and destroying New York City. Marvel. June 2016, following their battle in Sokovia, the public begins to grow resentful of the Avengers and the destruction they leave in their wake. This leads to the signing of the Sokovia Accords, which makes the Avengers a government organization subject to regulations and oversight. The Accords lead to a schism within the Avengers, particularly between Captain America and Iron Man. Marvel. Meanwhile, Bucky Barnes re-emerges after he is framed for bombing the UN summit where the Sokovia Accords were signed, a bombing that kills the King of Wakanda. The King's son, T'Challa, assumes the identity of Black Panther and goes hunting for the Winter Soldier, while Captain America moves to protect Barnes. Marvel. Eventually, the Avengers engage in a civil war that results in War Machine suffering major spinal cord damage. In addition, all the Avengers who joined Captain America in opposing the Sokovia Accords are arrested. Stark realizes that the Avengers have been manipulated by Helmut Zemo, who wanted revenge on the Avengers after his family was killed in Sokovia. Marvel Black Panther apprehends Helmut Zemo, but not before Zemo reveals to Iron Man that Bucky Barnes killed his parents. After a brutal fight with Iron Man, Captain America flees and breaks his teammates out of prison. He later writes a letter to Iron Man apologizing for their feud and brings Barnes to Black Panther's home of Wakanda, to hide Barnes from the authorities and heal his mind. Marvel. Soon after the events in Vienna, T'Challa returns to Wakanda for his coronation as king. He successfully defeats rival tribe leader N'Baku to officially become king in Black Panther. When Ulysses Klaue resurfaces, W'Kabi asks T'Challa to find the arms dealer and avenge W'Kabi's parents. T'Challa and his allies team with the CIA to capture Klaue, but Klaue is rescued from CIA custody by his ally, Eric Stevens, who is also known by his U.S. Special Forces nickname, Killmonger. Marvel. T'Challa returns to Wakanda and admits he couldn't stop Klaue, but soon after, Killmonger arrives in Wakanda with Klaue's body. He uses killing Klaue and his status as Yobu's son to successfully challenge T'Challa and become king. Believing T'Challa dead, his allies escape before Killmonger can kill them to consolidate power. They later find T'Challa's body and revive him with the heart-shaped herb. Marvel. While Killmonger prepares to use vibranium weapons to arm people across the world and create a Wakandan-led revolution, T'Challa returns and challenges him. Forces loyal to the two kings battle, while T'Challa fights Killmonger, who also has taken the heart-shaped herb in the mantle of Black Panther. T'Challa eventually defeats and kills Killmonger, but decides to end Wakanda's isolationist practices in favor of using the nation's wealth and technology to help the rest of the world. Marvel. Meanwhile, the world is introduced to another heroes. Peter Parker, a teen from Queens, takes the identity of Spider-Man and gets the attention of Tony Stark. Parker assists Stark and his allies in trying to bring in Captain America. Afterward, Stark gives Parker a new Spider-Man suit and upgraded web shooters, which include a special holographic signal. Marvel. 2 months after the Civil War battle, Spider-Man spends his days stopping small crimes around his neighborhood. This continues until he stops criminals robbing an ATM, using Toomes' powerful alien technology weapons. Sony. Spider-Man discovers Toomes is using his flying vulture armor to steal alien technology from damage control to use in more illegal weapons. He tracks Toomes down and stops him from hijacking an Avengers drone plane loaded with powerful technology. Toomes is sent to prison, along with one of his buyers, Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion, who vows to get revenge against Spider-Man. Tony Stark offers to make Spider-Man an Avenger, but he turns Stark down. Sony. Sometime later that year, Drive. Stephen Strange, a gifted neurosurgeon, crashes his car, suffering major nerve damage to his hands. No longer able to perform surgery, Strange starts to search for ways to heal himself, eventually looking toward unconventional possibilities. Marvel. Still pursuing a way to heal himself, Strange journeys to Naples and Camartage, where he meets the Ancient One and begins to learn the ways of magic. Marvel. The Ancient One is later killed by the sorcerer Caecilius, who uses a ritual to summon Dormammu in the Dark Dimension to overtake Earth. He destroys Earth's protective sanctums to allow Dormammu to attack. Marvel. Doctor Strange, coming along as a sorcerer but still in training, battles Caecilius but can't stop him from destroying Earth's sanctums. Strange then strikes a deal with Dormammu by imprisoning him in a time loop. Dormammu removes Caecilius from Earth and Strange becomes the new master of the New York Sanctum, but his ally Mordo abandons him and starts attacking sorcerers around the world. Marvel. 6 months after wiping out the last of the gangsters and cartel members responsible for the shootout that killed his family, Frank Castle goes underground, living in New York under the alias Pete Castiglione. He's contacted by David Lieberman, a CIA technician who goes by the hacker alias Micro, who reveals that Schoonover was part of a larger conspiracy that targeted Castle and Lieberman. Netflix. Castle and Lieberman work together to find and expose Agent Orange, a CIA operative who ran an illegal assassination campaign in Afghanistan using Castle's unit. It was Agent Orange who ordered Castle's family killed. The shootout was just a cover. Castle eventually finds and kills Agent Orange, but not before realizing his best friend, Billy Russo, was also involved in the conspiracy. Castle confronts Russo and greatly damages his face in the fight. The government wipes Castle's record, allowing him to go back to his life as Pete Castiglione, after he exposes Agent Orange's rogue actions. 2017, in New York, the Hand continues its plans and activates the Black Sky, the resurrected Elektra. Matt Murdock, Luke Cage, Danny Rand and Jessica Jones soon find they're all investigating the same case, which leads them back to the Hand. They join forces to become the Defenders. The Hand's ultimate goal is to harvest the bones of a dragon deep beneath New York City, from which they derive the substance that gives them immortality. Harvesting the bones will destroy the city, and the Defenders eventually stop the Hand, and set explosives to level the building constructed over top of the excavation site. Murdock and Elektra, as well as Madame Gao and Murakami, are in the building when it implodes. Murdock is thought dead but survives, nursed back to health in a convent in an unknown location. Sometime after the destruction of the Hand in New York City, Jessica Jones begins investigating the organization IGH after a powered person calling himself the Wizard comes to her claiming someone is attempting to kill him. She learns her mother, Elisa Jones, survived the accident that killed Jessica's family, and is responsible for the murders because of the experiments performed on her. Netflix. Jessica attempts to help Elisa, but Jessica's adopted sister, Trish Walker, learns about the experiments done by Dr. Malice and forces him to perform them on her. Jessica interrupts the procedure, and Malice kills himself to destroy his research. After Elisa goes on the run and convinces Jessica to join her, Trish kills Elisa to save Jessica. Netflix. Thor and Loki head to Earth looking for Odin, where they're aided by Doctor Strange. Odin reveals that he's dying and that Hela, their sister and the Asgardian goddess of death, will be released from imprisonment when he dies. Hela arrives on Earth moments after Odin's death, and immediately destroys Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Hela flings Thor and Loki out of the Bifrost, and they wind up on Sakaar. Thor is enslaved by the Grandmaster and forced to fight in a gladiator arena, where he finds the Hulk is Sakaar's favorite fighter. Thor eventually enlists Hulk and an Asgardian Valkyrie on Sakaar to escape the Grandmaster. They return to Asgard to challenge Hela. Marvel. Thor finds he can't defeat Hela alone, and she gouges out one of his eyes, but discovers he can channel his true power without the need of his hammer, and together with Loki, Hulk and Valkyrie, manages to hold Hela back while the Asgardians evacuate onto a spaceship. Loki heads to Asgard's vaults and summons the demon Surtur, who destroyed Asgard and, seemingly, Hela, while the ship escapes. Marvel. As the Asgardian ship heads for Earth, it's intercepted by another, much more massive ship. That ship belongs to Thanos, suggesting Thor and the Asgardians are captured. It's also heavily implied that Loki stole the Tesseract from the vault on Asgard, which would mean Thanos could gain possession of the Infinity Stone within. Marvel. Ever since Nick Fury appeared in Tony Stark's mansion 8 years ago, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has exploded into a web of events that spans 13 movies and 5 TV series, with several more tales in the works. As Marvel fans count down to the release of Doctor Strange, here's a running chronological timeline of all the major events in the MCU. Beware, all possible spoilers ahead.